All right, good. So what happened is today you just made your own speaker, right? It's a real speaker. It makes noise, just like you heard. And actually, a real speaker is just like the speaker that you have, only it's a little bit more precise. You know, they actually use nicer materials. They, practice it, and it's made usually by machines, right? This is a real speaker, and it has all the same things that you have in your speaker. It's got a paper cone. I've cut this one in half so we can see the innards. And if you have an old speaker sometime that your parents let you take apart or you find on the street, you can rip it apart too to see all the parts. So this is a paper cone, as you can see. But this paper cone, just like we have, is also attached to this thing inside, which might be tough for everybody to see. And it's a coil of wire. It's a coil of wire, and this is a special kind of wire. It's not just bare copper wire. It's called enameled wire. It has a coating on it. That's why we had to use the sandpaper to remove some of it so that we could put the alligator clips on it from the amplifier so that we could actually pass electricity through the wire. So this coil is called the voice coil in a speaker. And this voice coil is attached to the paper cone, and then inside and around that is a magnet. So just like if I can borrow your nail, this speaker has got a magnet on the outside, like a donut, that wraps around the voice coil, and a magnet on the inside, which is a little cylinder. So what happens is when you pass electricity through that coil of wire, through the voice coil on your speakers, the electricity from music is usually going back and forth. Okay? It's not going in one direction like a battery, positive to negative. It's constantly moving back and forth. So who's ever made like an electromagnet with a nail, where you wrap the same enameled wire around a nail?
I did it for a project.
Right? Cool. You did it for a project, right? A few of you have done it. And how many people have tried to take like two magnets and stick like the south poles or the north poles together and they repel, right? And if you flip it, they attract, right? Okay. Well, so what happens is that coil of wire makes an electromagnet. And what happens with that electromagnet is either attracts or repels the natural magnets that are inside of it, which causes the speaker to bounce. So I'm going to give you an example. Actually, you want to be an assistant? Can you stand up for a second? All right. So I'm going to have you hold the speaker so everyone can see it. Got it? So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take a 9-volt battery, and I have these little, these are called little alligator clips, like jumper cables, that attach to each side of the coil of wire. And then I'm going to click this, and you'll see that it moves in a teeny bit. You can't really see it move in, but you'll definitely be able to see it move out. See it move out? So if I hold it on, it'll move out. And in the other direction, it's hard to see. You can see it actually suck in a teeny bit. Oops. See it suck in. And you can do this with batteries at your house, with a speaker that you have. Thank you very much. And what's happening there is I'm passing the electricity from the battery, unlike music, in one direction, which is causing a magnet with a north and south pole. Right? When I put it in one way, it attracts the magnets that are on the speaker. When I put it in the other way, it repels them. So now imagine that your music is this battery, but you're switching it back and forth all the time, and the power of your battery changes all the time. So that means it pushes the speaker out back and forth at different rates, and also different amounts of force, right? The more forceful it is, the louder the volume. The different the rate is, actually the higher the pitch or the lower the pitch, like a really low sound. So I'm going to demonstrate that too, so you have a better idea of how that works, right? So when we have, this is the one demonstration speaker I have, and then I've got another one here. Hopefully everything will work like it's supposed to. Okay, so you see the speaker moving in and out right now? Everyone see it just kind of breathing in and out? So what I have is I've got a program on my phone that what it does, it pretty much does the equivalent of taking a battery and reversing it back and forth on the speaker, right? And what this does is when you reverse that polarity and you reverse the magnets in the speaker, you're actually, the faster you do it, the more you're changing the frequency, right? Has anyone ever heard of hertz? Like 10 hertz, 50 hertz, 100 hertz, something like that? Okay, it's kind of a word probably a lot of you haven't heard, but what 1 hertz is one back and forth movement per second, right? Right now, this speaker is moving back and forth at 5 hertz, 5 back and forths every second. So if I was waving to everybody at about the same speed as the speaker, I'd be waving back and forth at 5 hertz, or 5 times a second. So this speaker, when it's at 5 hertz, we can't hear anything, right? But what will happen is if we keep reversing that polarity faster, you will start to hear it.
Yeah.
Right? You hear it now?
It sounds like a fan. It sounds like a fan.
Sounds like a fan, right? So does anyone know why it's making noise?
Because it's moving so fast that it's like rubbing against something.
Well, close. It's this. The cone is moving back and forth, but what is it pushing? It's pushing air, right? So what it's doing is actually it's pushing air. It's compressing air, making sound waves, and those waves go through the air and they hit our ears. They vibrate our eardrums, and our brains say, "Oh, I hear something. That's sound," right? So our eardrums vibrate at the same speed that the sound waves being pressed by the speaker vibrate. And that's how we know if something's a low sound or a high sound. So this sounds kind of like a low bass sound, right? And see it's vibrating back and forth. You want to know why? If you click a bass string, or you hit like a piano key, it's vibrating those strings at the same frequency that this is, if they both sound the same, right? So this is all about vibrations. So let's turn out what we're going to do. We're going to make it faster and faster, right? So you can still see it, right? We can put things on it, right? So it'll keep vibrating around, and then it's going to get a little bit annoying, right? So it's still vibrating, right? We'll turn it down, right? It's pretty loud, right? So right now, you hear that sound? That sound, if you press the A key in the middle of a piano, does anyone play the piano? If you press the A key in the middle of the piano, it'll sound like this, because that's the string in the A key that you hit with a hammer on your piano, vibrating 440 times a second, right? So now, if we keep going up, yep, it's really fast. We're going to keep going.
I don't even see it moving.
You can't even see it moving anymore because it's moving so fast.
I just see it like still.
So now, we're up to 10,000. Can everyone still hear it?
Yes.
We're going to keep going. Can everyone still hear it? It's getting super irritating. Can anyone still hear it?
Yeah.
You can still hear it? Can the adults hear it?
Yes.
No, not much, right? Okay, now we're up to 18,000, right?
I can't hear it.
Can anyone still hear it?
I can.
You can? Okay. All right, and now we're at 20,000.
Yeah, I can.
Okay, so what just happened is I gave you, so think of having a battery and moving it back and forth 20,000 times a second, right? That's what was just happening with this speaker. So we started at 20 hertz, which was 20 times a second. That's when we could start hearing it. We went all the way up to 20,000 times a second. And you'll notice as it got more and more frequent, faster and faster, adults stopped hearing it. Kids could hear it more easily. That's because adults, our hearing starts to fade away as we get older, so we can't hear really high-pitched stuff. But guess who can hear stuff? And so humans can't really hear much beyond 20,000 hertz. Guess who can?
Animals.
Animals. Wow, you're a smart bunch, right? So dogs can hear above that frequency. That's why dog whistles we can't hear, but they can hear, because it's above 20,000 hertz. And what's vibrating in that dog whistle is a little thing that makes the noise, that actually makes the sound once. Yes?
My mom, she has this like, she had got on her iPhone, it's like this command app for dogs.
Yeah.
So then she says a command and then it makes this noise and it's like a really high pitch.
Mm-hmm. That's because the speakers on your iPhone can vibrate at a faster speed than we'll actually be able to hear. The dogs might hear it. So that application actually might work. I've never tried it. Yes?
Like for a ringtone, I have like really high because if it goes off in class, my teacher won't be able to hear it.
Right. See, that's pretty smart. And that's exactly the thing is, when we're older, we can't hear that high pitch. So if you hear it but your teacher doesn't hear it, that's pretty smart. Right? And that's the reason. It's because our eardrums start to deteriorate and they can't vibrate that fast anymore. Yeah.
What is there? Is it like a pretty gradual deterioration, or do they say there's an age that you stop being able to hear above 15,000, or how does
I think it's a gradual deterioration. So usually around 15, 16,000 it starts to taper off.
like in early 20s? Probably?
I think so, yeah. Depending when you stopped hearing it and how old you are. Yeah, I mean,
Something
I've
happens
noticed.
in the 50s.
That's right. So it just depends. And some people retain their hearing for much longer than others. Depends how much loud music you listen to when you're younger. So, and that actually does have an impact. So none of your parents might say that, but that's actually true. You wear out your eardrums. Okay, so that's pretty much it for the explanation of how speakers work. And I know that's not totally easy to understand, but everyone get kind of a decent idea of how that works?
Yeah.
Cool. All right. So what